Hi everyone, I'm Lee. Welcome. Hope you're all doing good and enjoying what is today, currently 25 degrees in the UK, which is very unusual. Today I am here and I'm going to show you how to convert your super heavy blondes, that's your balayage clients with a root, or that's your super heavy highlighted clients who now have a root. And the way I say now is because currently, while I'm filming this, we are as a nation in lockdown. It's been interesting, but it's going to give us hairdressers some challenges when we get back to the salon. So that's what I'm doing today to help you convert super blonde into dimensional blonde. So the first thing that you need to think about when you're converting blondes into a more dimensional blonde or even a more brunette with some blonde through is how much dimension do you want. For this particular hairdo, I'm going to do quite a heavy blonde still right down the bottom, but this rooted area is going to be a lot darker and bringing some of that through. So the first part of this is going to be rooting, and I'm going to do that in a teardrop section. So I always kind of work in diamond patterns. So if I turn her around, when I say diamond, like this. So I always come down and down. And that way you're going to get a really nice drop root. It's not going to look like she's got a line going around her head, just a regrowth, because chances are it's probably what she's got now. And it just gives the most beautiful natural results. So I'm going to go ahead and get that done. Right, so as you can see for this, I always section the front out. And this front hairline, I keep completely separate, and I work with that at the end, because this bit I will want to keep actually quite blonde. So I will just literally root out that front area, and that means when she pulls it back, she's still going to feel like quite blonde and not going to have what could, when it's pulled back tight, look like a root. So I tend to always work from the back, and round here I leave a slither of hairline all the way around the edge. Because again, when she puts it up, you're going to want it to not look like she's got any sort of a root there really. I think it's quite nice because you will have some of that dark shining through, because this is really, really thin, this section. I don't know if you can see from my finger, but if I do that, you can see how thin that section is. So when that's up, that dark is going to be coming through from underneath, so it will blend really, really nicely. So you'll see that at the end. So anyway, let's get started. Again, it's complete personal preference where you start, but I do like starting from the bottom. So the root colour you choose is all going to depend on your client's base. And you know, what her natural is, whether she's warm. For this, as you can see, she was a natural copper. Not a natural copper, but she was a copper. So I have used actually just a straight natural on this, because I still want it to be a bit warm. I'm a massive fan of warm tones, so for me, I want a bit of warmth in there still, but I don't want it red anymore. So this is just a natural. That will neutralise some of that, but not all of it. Right, when I get up to this section, I want to start thinking about that drop root and this diamond. So this will be the last one that I kind of do like this, and I do tend to feather down a little bit in the middle there. Now I'm going to start taking my diamond sections. So with this here, I want not too much up here and coming more down there. So not much here and more down there. And that's going to start creating that drop. Now for me, on this technique, when you're taking blondes to, whether you're shadow rooting or whether you are adding in a full root, blending out lines, whatever it might be, this crown, aside from the very front, is so important, because you've got to take into account where it splits, you've got to take into account how it lays naturally. So when you're doing your consultation at the beginning, it's really, really important that you actually look at that and see what you're going to do. Obviously for this lovely dolly here, she doesn't care and it just falls straight where it should. But not everyone's the same. So if you've got a double crown especially as well that splits all over the place, you've got to really take that into account as to where you're going to place your dark, because there's nothing worse than having a line that just goes round that looks like a bowl's been put on and painted, so you've got to be really careful with that. This bit here, I'm already thinking about how I want this blonde to lay over this dark, so you can see that on this underneath it's gone quite deep down here, whereas this bit I'm literally just doing these roots to get rid of that glow, but I'm actually going to use this bit as like a veil of blonde going over the top. Be very pretty. So on these side sections, working our diagonal, and again you're wanting less up here going into more down here. Normally I'd probably put something under here to make sure like her ear doesn't get filthy, but I don't think she's going to mind, so she can deal with it today, it's fine. So again, smaller into bigger, so what you're doing, you're wanting that sort of shape. Now if you are someone that struggles with angles, which I absolutely used to, this was my little tip. I would pull the hair and over direct it this way. So I would paint a line like that. So let me turn her over there so you can see. So I'm pulling the hair this way. So I'm doing a little bit here. And you can see when that drops, that's what that's going to do. So it's a really good tip if you struggle to visually do angles. Just bring it over, paint almost in a line here, and as you fall, you're going to get that perfect drop. As we get up to the hairline, we need to be, again, taking into account how we're going to want this to fall at the end. So again, pull over this way, pull towards you, and you can paint. So under here, there's the hairline. I'm painting to that hairline, and when it drops, there's your angle. And if you do struggle with angles, I would suggest doing that with shadow roots and everything. It works really well. You can't really do it if you're shadow rooting at a basin. Well, you probably can, but it's quite tricky. So I tend to not. Right, so I've gone ahead and done the other side. When it gets to this front section, like I said, I want to probably try and keep this quite blonde. So I'm literally just root tapping that and tapping the slightest bit. I don't want to create more of a root than I need to, but obviously on this particular one, I need to get rid of some of that red. So I'm literally just tapping those edges, and that will be enough. This is where we can start taking our dimension through. Now, depending on how much you want going through, depends on whether you go quite shallow or quite deep, or fine or thicker. So for this, I want quite a lot, so I'm going to take some decent sections coming through. That one a bit thicker. But this bottom section, you can see that hairline, actually I might go a little bit more than that. That hairline is staying blonde. That's better. Right, so this colour is actually a shade lighter than the roots. So I'm going straight over that root mark, blending it down, and then out. Now, I never go down to the very bottom. And the reason being is because I want the dimension through the mids and the top. I don't want it going through those bottom ends. it on, bringing it about 2/3 of the way down, feathering out at the bottom. You can use your pinchers and blend away like that, or you can comb through. Either way will work perfectly fine. Just make sure that wherever you bring this dimension down to, that it's quite even. And this is super quick. When I'm doing like this and roots in the salon, it takes me about 35 minutes. Get nice and neat sections. And you can still see I'm working still in that diamond section. So now look, if you see, we've got our drop root in here already. So I'm going to be placing around that section. So I'm taking a smaller piece here and then a bigger bit on the sides. One, two, three. So, did you see that? Thick, smaller, smaller even so. And that very hairline, I'm not touching. Now on these sides, the dimension comes down further at the back than it does at the front. And that gives that almost natural face frame pattern here. So another way of doing this is you could literally feather the paint on, and again use your pinchers and drop. Now you can see here we've already got this beautiful root going on. So bigger, smaller, smaller, smaller. So the final section on this side, my section gets thicker as I go back. Not too much because it's on the top, and those little bits are good because they will help with that blend. Board in. This is what she will look like at the end. So I'll let this process and come back and show you the result. So here is the result of that drop root. So you can see that you get that real drop root effect all through the back here, and that tiny slither that I left out is what is diffusing that dark, and it's just a really, really seamlessly blended root area into a more dimensional blonde. Just some darker pieces just scattered through there, and it just really helps diffuse that regrowth line that everyone's going to have. So yeah, it's so easy, so quick, and I think that's what we're going to be needing. Put a bit of a 70s wave on there as well, why not? So let me know what you think anyway, and if you try it, tag me in it and let me see your results. So there we are, she's ready for post-lockdown. you.